Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since we discovered Spotify for Podcasters, we have had so much fun trying out all of the features like Q&As and polls that let us be really creative and engage with our audience. I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. Welcome to episode 61 of Podcast Royal, where we answer the question, are the Sussexes coming to the UK for the Platinum Jubilee? We get new photos for Charlotte's birthday and the Cambridge's dog's name. Plus, a terrifying security breach at Windsor leaves lingering questions about safety at royal households. Let's dig into all of this and more right now.
Welcome back to episode 61 of Podcast Royal. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, I'm freshly back from the Dominican Republic in my total copycatted. will shamelessly say that I completely copycatted your trip right down to the exact city in the Dominican Republic, not the exact resort, but a sister resort. And I am relaxed, and I caught a bit of a cold. It's not COVID. Trust me, I had to test a million times to get back in the United States. It's not COVID, but it's allergies or a cold or a sinus infection. But I am very relaxed off of a great vacation. And
yeah, we have not had a chance to get together for dinner since you got back, and we're going to have to go and compare notes about our experiences and talk about all the things that we did. So I'm really excited about that.
Yes, we need to do that. We need a dinner desperately, and we will do that. But I'm wondering what you are into this week.
So this week, I guess I'll say I'm into a movie, but I haven't actually seen it yet. So I can't really speak to if it's good. But I recently stumbled across some movies. I was scanning through Amazon Prime, and there was this kids movie. So I don't know if any of our listeners have kids, but if you do, I found a cartoon movie on Amazon called The Queen's Corgi. Have you heard of this?
No, but I don't get on Prime very often. I rarely watch Prime for whatever reason.
Well, oddly enough, neither do I. And I just happened to get on there one day. It's about an hour and 25 minutes. It's rated PG. It looks really cute. It says 72% of viewers have given it a thumbs up, but it was released in January of 2020. And I'll read the description for listeners. So it says, the Queen's favorite corgi lives a life of luxury at Buckingham Palace. However, he ends up on the streets after he is blamed for a very inappropriate diplomatic situation during dinner with the President of the United States. I did watch the trailer, and you can guess who the cartoon president is supposed to be, but politics aside, just looking at a cartoon movie about the Queen's Corgi, it seems like a really cute watch, and I was thinking I might actually watch it later tonight after we record, so I'll maybe tell you how it was next time we
but I can't believe that the corgi's out on the street. I'll adopt the corgi.
Yeah, I think I saw a cartoon Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip in the movie, and the little corgi, I imagine, probably finds its way to a pound or something and has to work his way back into the palace. I'm not sure, but really cute watch for listeners who have kids or just want to watch a cartoon.
Oh my gosh. Well, I hope the Queen's corgi ends up back at Buckingham Palace where he belongs or where she belongs. You'll have to let me know how that is. And, other than an incredible week in the Dominican Republic, which I highly recommend to all of our listeners, I also had an incredibly fun night out with you before I left for the Dominican Republic. We went to a concert and we had a great time.
You did.
So that was a blast. But did you see Fergie's slipper shoes with "Never Complain, Never Explain" on them?
Yes, I did. I could not believe that.
Yeah, that was a moment right there. That was pretty brazen and pretty bold. And another thing I'm into this week is it made my 1990s heart really happy to see Mel B from the Spice Girls get an investiture honor from William this week. And I don't know what has happened to me, but ever since I saw that, this is so embarrassing. I have been listening to the Spice Girls like nonstop for the past week. Like they had some really good songs. And when I put on their music, I feel like I'm 10 years old again. It's 1996. I don't have a care in the world. I have no bills to pay. And I'm listening to Wannabe and Say You'll Be There and Spice Up Your Life. And so that is what I'm into this week.
I love it. Yeah, I like Mel B and also love the Spice Girls. I love some good throwback music from our younger years.
Yes, the 90s were the best, and no one can deny this ever. Okay, so let's move into segment one, your fashion pick of the week. So I want to know, first off, what you thought about Kate's belted green, it's a jewel colored green dress last week. It seems to be a bit polarizing, and I want to know what you think.
So funny enough, the green belted dress is actually my fashion pick for this episode.
Well, how about that?
Yeah, I loved this dress. And, it's interesting because I normally wouldn't go for a belted look, especially the metal buckle feature. That's not really my preferred style.
Uh-huh.
But there was something about this dress that was so eye-catching in a really good way. And I think what it was really giving me like 1950s, 1960 vibes. Did you get that?
Yeah, but a lot of people are saying that she's trying to go 280s, like with the metal buckle, like with the buckle. So,
Okay.
but I can see, like, I just love the color of the dress. Like, I love a jewel tone.
Well, I did not pick up on the 80s vibe with this dress. I was thinking 50s, 60s, and that's what I really loved about it. I could just see someone, like really stylish woman in the mid 20th century kind of pulling this look off. It was really kind of classic, feminine. I also thought the dress fit her really well. It hung nicely. I thought the ties on the sleeves were kind of fun. And I thought it was appropriate for the event. So for listeners who may not know, Kate wore this dress to present the Queen Elizabeth II Award for British Design at the Design Museum in London. And the event recognized the talent support initiatives of the BRF Foundation as described by the British Fashion Council. So Kate presented the award to Saul Nash, who is, according to their Instagram, redefining how we look at luxury menswear and sportswear. And that was on the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge's Instagram account. So, okay, Rachel, I want to know what you thought. Did you think overall it was a hit or a miss?
I thought overall it was a huge hit. I love the color. I love really everything about this dress, except if I had to do away with anything, what do you think I would do away with?
Well, if you're anything like me, I would probably say the belt.
Okay, I would keep the belt. Actually, the bows on the arms are a bit distracting to me, but I also don't hate them either. But yeah, I mean, the look is a hit for me. The color I can't get enough of. But if I had to change it, I would take away the bows on the arms. But overall, I loved it, and like you said, it is a very appropriate dress for the setting that she's in. And she always does that, right? Like she's very good at dressing for wherever she is, whether it's, a certain patronage or engagement or a certain country. So I loved it.
Cool. So we're both in agreement on that.
We are simpatico, as they might say. So I am going to move us into segment two, which is a segment we've never done before. And we're going to try it and we're going to see if it works. And it's called The Good News or the bad news first? So I'm going to take a topic and I'm going to say, do you want the good news or the bad news first? And we're going to unpack it. Take, if you will, both sides of the coin, the good and the bad. So our first topic is Harry and Meghan returning to the UK for the Platinum Jubilee. And with that, my friend, I'm going to let you decide. Do you want the good news or the bad news first?
Let's start with the good news.
Okay, so the good news, it has been confirmed, unless you've been living under a rock, even me in the Dominican Republic heard that, yes, Harry and Meghan will be returning to the UK for the Platinum Jubilee, making my long-held royal dreams come true that maybe, just maybe, Lili will get to meet her namesake for her first birthday on June 4th. But the bad news, Harry and Meghan, along with Andrew, which isn't really bad news, but Harry and Meghan will not be appearing on the Buckingham Palace balcony during Trooping the Colour. So the Queen said that after careful consideration, only working members of the royal family will join her on the balcony. So would love to know your thoughts. Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lili are coming to the UK for the Platinum Jubilee, but they will not be on the balcony for Trooping the Colour.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear that they were going to make it. There's been a lot of talk with security concerns from Prince Harry, and I had said before I really didn't expect them to make it. So we'll see what happens. I certainly hope they get to attend. I think that would be a really great opportunity, as you said, for Lili to meet the Queen, and it would be really fun to see the family together. As far as them not being on the balcony, I'm okay with that. I think if you draw a line and you say working royals only, it's hard to make exceptions in that situation, regardless of what you might think about, Prince Andrew and why he should or shouldn't be up there. I feel like it's an easy way to, make a decision one way or the other. And unfortunately, it kind of shakes out that the Sussexes won't be able to be on the balcony. But I feel like that's the right decision. We do have the Cambridges, we do have the Wessexes working really, really hard on behalf of the crown. So it makes sense that they would be on the balcony and that the working royals wouldn't be. But I'm not sure what that means as far as where they will be or where we might see them.
Yeah, well, I think that we will see them, and we will talk about this later in the show. I think we will see them at the service of Thanksgiving, which is the next day, June 3rd. And excuse me, I'm coming out of a cold. And so if I have to clear my throat, listeners, I'm so sorry. But I'm obviously thrilled that they're coming back. I knew that this was a possibility after their April 14th visit to Windsor to see the Queen. And I'm so happy that they've accepted it. Obviously, there's been some workaround with security that makes Harry feel comfortable enough to bring not just Meghan back, but the kids. I have a feeling that royal security is going to be in place for them when they're attending official royal events, like whatever they end up going to, like the service of Thanksgiving. So I'm so happy that he's going to get to be there. I am so happy that Lili and the Queen are going to finally get to meet, whether it's on her birthday or what, they're just going to get to meet, and that's wonderful. And I agree with you. I don't think there was any other way to handle the Andrew question, but to make a decision like the Queen did. I think she made the right call in choosing to only have working members of the royal family. That means that, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the show, but that means that Beatrice won't be on the balcony, Eugenie won't be on the balcony, but it had to be done that way. And I think she absolutely made the right decision.
100%.
Okay, next topic, garden parties. Do you want the good news or the bad news first?
Give me the good news again.
This is funny because my mom used to say that to me whenever I was a kid, and she had good news and bad news. She would always ask this. So Mom, I know you're listening, and I'm sure you're like, hey, I used to say that. This is where I got the idea from, I think. Okay, so let's start with the good news. Garden parties are back. Woohoo! After being canceled for the past 2 years because of COVID, there will be 3 garden parties at Buckingham Palace in May and 1 at the Palace of Holyrood House in Edinburgh, Scotland in June. But the bad news, the Queen won't be in attendance as it would require too much standing. So fun fact about garden parties, which have been held at Buckingham Palace since the 1860s as a way to recognize public service. Get this, Jessica, around 27,000 cups of tea are served and 20 1,000 slices of cake are eaten. That is crazy.
Oh my
So,
gosh. I would love to go to a garden party at the palace. I think that would be such a dream. And I would
oh my
love to
God.
have a cup of tea with the queen at a garden party.
I know, I know. And I just thought of this. We started our show in November 2020. There has never been a garden party since we started the show.
Oh, wow.
This is the first garden party season since we've been on the air, and we've been on for a year and a half. So that, by the way, it's almost our anniversary. I just realized that we recorded our first episode November 14th, 2020, which is Charles's birthday randomly. And so May 14th is our 18-month anniversary. So happy anniversary to us, because that's this week.
Happy
Okay. Third topic for this new segment. Let's talk about the Queen and the state opening of Parliament, which happened today, Tuesday. Do you want the good news or the bad news?
All right, we'll switch it up. Let me have the bad news first this time.
Okay. So the bad news, of course, is the Queen had to miss it due to quote unquote episodic mobility problems, as a statement from Buckingham Palace said. I feel like this is just the norm now that Charles will be going in her stead. I know she has to be saving all of her energy up for the Platinum Jubilee in a few weeks, but Charles, of course, we've seen him accompany the Queen to the state opening of Parliament, but today was the first time that he actually represented the Queen in her absence. This is, by the way, only her third time to miss the state opening of Parliament. So this is a big deal. The other two times were due to her pregnancies with Andrew and Edward. And throughout the Queen's 11-minute speech, which Charles delivered, the striking image of the imperial state crown sitting there was not lost on me. So the Queen has not worn the imperial state crown in a few years. It's really heavy. It's about 2 pounds, which doesn't sound like a lot unless you're carrying it on top of your head. But the Queen wasn't there in person, and it just felt like the imperial state crown was representing her in her absence. And I just really felt her absence today. I could see it on the faces of Charles and William. Maybe I was overanalyzing this, but it's just, her absence was really profoundly felt today. And there was some history made today, though. It wasn't all for nothing. The good news, if we can find any from this, is William attended his first opening of Parliament alongside Charles, who read the Queen's speech. And a lot of other historical things happen. I will send along an article from People magazine to put in our show notes about all the ways that history was made at today's state opening of Parliament. There's a lot of different things that happened today that you might have missed unless you kind of knew the lay of the land like People magazine does. So it was a historic day today, but her absence is just so profoundly felt. What do you think?
Yeah, I was actually talking to someone about this recently, and they were surprised to hear it. And my comment was sort of like yours. I wasn't really surprised because it does feel like it's become the norm lately, and that's I'm saying that unfortunately. It was definitely a new sort of experience not having her there, since she's been there so many years before. But I do think it is exciting to hear about William being able to attend his first opening of Parliament, and I do think that would be a great read for our listeners. We'll definitely share that article in the show notes.
Yeah, it was a really interesting read. And so we'll make sure to include that. So our final topic in this new segment, I kind of like this segment. It's a different way to do the news, to do the royal rundown. So, and as with so many things in royal life, there's a good side and a bad side to the coin. So our final topic, Netflix and the Sussexes. So for the fourth and final time, would you like the good news or the bad news first?
You can give me the bad news again, so we'll end on the good news.
Good. Okay. I like that attitude. I like the way you think. So the bad news, Meghan's animated series Pearl was one of several animated projects dropped by Netflix amidst the streaming service's recent cutbacks. So Pearl was going to be a girl's, quote, heroic adventure as she learns to step into her power and finds inspiration from influential women throughout history. But the good news is Heart of Invictus is still happening, which is a documentary series about the recent Invictus Games. So we saw Netflix cameras all over the Invictus Games last month. And so not surprisingly at all, that is going to continue on through production. So any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the Netflix news about Pearl came as a little bit of a surprise following all of the loss of subscribers Netflix had recently. But I mean, maybe that's kind of why I was on Amazon Prime. I'm kind of right there with other subscribers. I haven't really seen a lot of great new content out there lately. I am looking forward to Heart of Invictus. I plan to watch that. Pearl probably wasn't really in a list of shows that I would watch anyway. I think it's, for kids. But
Yeah.
I was surprised to hear the news, but we'll tune into Heart of Invictus when it's live.
Yeah, I have no idea yet when that release date will be. But for those wondering, and I know you're wondering out there, will Netflix cameras be at the Platinum Jubilee with the Sussexes? I am hearing no. So the only reason they were there for Invictus Games was because the whole documentary is about the Invictus Games. So there's your answer from what I know as of now. So that's segment 2. That was kind of fun. I like it. I dig it. I dig it. Okay. Well, let's move into segment 3, the Royal Rundown. You'll kick us off with topic 1, Charlotte's birthday photos.
Yeah. So just ahead of her 7th birthday on May 2nd, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge released 3 photos of Charlotte to mark the occasion. So the photos were, as ever, taken by the Duchess of Cambridge, and they featured Charlotte in a field of bluebells in Norfolk, where the Cambridge's country home is located. In one of the photos, I'm sure our listeners saw this one, it was everywhere. Charlotte was joined by the Cambridge's newish, I'll say, puppy, who we finally learned has a name. And its name is Orla. I thought that was a really interesting name for their puppy. It's the
I love
first
it.
time. I do too. It's the first time a photo of Orla has been shared with the public. And Orla is a black Cocker Spaniel. And the name actually is a Celtic name, and it means golden princess.
I love that. Charlotte, first of all, Charlotte is William's spitting image. Okay. Like, it is uncanny. And Charlotte has hair goals for days. Like, can we get what Charlotte's having as far as hair length? And I mean, she's just growing up into such a beautiful little girl. And we live for these Cambridge kids photos. And so we'll get some of George in July for his birthday. But we also want to wish a happy 3rd birthday on May 6th to Archie Mountbatten-Windsor. I almost said his full name, Archie Harrison Mountbatten-Windsor. That's just what I've gotten so used to saying. We did an Instagram post on him, and that is the longest doggone hashtag in the entire world, Archie Harrison Mountbatten-Windsor. But happy birthday to the Cambridge princess and the Sussex master, if you will, Archie and Charlotte. Happy birthday. So let's move into topic 2, which is really a frightening topic. We've had another security breach, and it comes not too long after the breach at Windsor over Christmas. I know we reported on this. Do you remember this when they caught someone with like a crossbow? And the Queen was at Windsor for Christmas. Charles and Camilla were there as well. I don't know how this keeps happening, but an investigation is underway after an intruder posing as a priest spent the night last week at the Victoria Barracks at Windsor, which houses the soldiers who protect the Queen while she is in Windsor. Thankfully, at the time she was not at Windsor, she was away at Sandringham when the security breach took place on April 26th. And a man dressed as a priest was let inside without having to show identification. He spent the evening eating and drinking with senior officers who apparently began to become suspicious after some of the quote unquote priests' far-flung stories about working as an ejector seat test pilot, okay, and having his organs replaced. By the way, I read that he went by Father Cruz, Cruise. Very, very strange. He spent the night there, Jessica, and a report wasn't made of an intrusion until 9:20 a.m. the following day. The man was removed and no further action was required, although the whole situation is under investigation now. Something obviously needs to be done to overhaul security within the royal palaces. There is an investigation happening right now as to how this could have happened. So the police aren't commenting any further, but that is terrifying. And of course, so this happened the December 2021 crossbow thing happened. And then if you watch The Crown, which I know you do, Jessica, but listeners, if you watch The Crown, you'll remember the show portrayed the 1982 Buckingham Palace break-in where a man was able to penetrate into the Queen's bedroom. And so just really scary. I'm so thankful she wasn't there. But the fact that he was allowed to not only go into the barracks, but spend the night there, that is terrifying to me.
I mean, it's scary, but I did have a laugh.
It's also funny, but it's scary. Like it's yes, okay, so you broke the ice. It is a little funny, but it's also really scary that like who is minding the store here? Like, could I just put, I mean, I don't know, maybe I couldn't because I'm a woman, but just
trying to imagine him sitting around with senior officers, like, dining and like, having the best drink, saying he gets to sleep in this palace. Like, like, what is he thinking? Like, wow, just living like a prince for a night. And then he's out the next day. Of course, it's only funny because nothing dangerous really happened. It is scary and it's sad, honestly, to think that the palaces are going to have to ramp up security. It's nice to sort of think of a place where we can have these royal residences and enjoy their beauty without having to have them on lockdown, where we can trust people to not do things like that. But we're just not in that world anymore. So definitely a funny story, but a scary element too.
Well, I also just remembered when that woman said she was with like dating or whatever it was with Prince Andrew and they let her inside. And then but it makes me think differently now of Harry's comments to Hoda Kotb on Today, where he said that he wanted to make sure that she had the right people around her. Maybe Harry really is onto something here with royal security. I mean, obviously something needs to be done. It's just, I mean, thank God she wasn't there. Thank God no one was hurt. I mean, he wasn't in Windsor Castle, right? He was in the barracks, but still he was on the grounds, and that's just frightening. So there's your scary bit of royal news for the week. And I say on a lighter note, but not really. Eugenie has launched a podcast about a very serious topic. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So this, long slavery has finally launched. It's called Floodlight, and it's in honor of her charity, the Anti-Slavery Collective. It launched on April 27th. And in a post about the podcast, Eugenie wrote, "Floodlight shows you just how prominent modern slavery is and that we can all do something about it." So it's co-hosted by Eugenie and Julia de Bonville, which I'm not sure that I said that correctly. But they co-founded the Anti-Slavery Collective in 2017 to combat modern slavery and trafficking. The show will feature the duo speaking with guests from all walks of life who are helping to combat modern slavery in a variety of different ways.
And one other quick note about the York sisters, Beatrice and Edo christened Sienna since our last episode. So congratulations to the Mapelli-Mozzis. That's exciting.
That is exciting. Congratulations. And, Beatrice and Edo have done a lot of royal sort of ceremonies and activities, but kind of under the radar. They've done these sort of smaller events, and I imagine that's a way for them to experience those traditions, but in a more private way. So that's really cool for them.
Yeah, the christening pretty much flew under the radar, but I did catch it in the mirror. So congratulations to the Mapelli. And by the way, Beatrice is always been beautiful, but she is just looking more radiant than ever. Motherhood really suits her, and she just looks fantastic.
I agree. So we'll go on to the next topic now. In a royal first, Kate and Anne stepped out for their first ever joint outing, visiting the London headquarters of the Royal College of Midwives and the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, of which Anne and Kate are patrons. That word always trips me up. The visit was to highlight the improvement of maternal health care, and later that week, Kate announced a new patronage for the Maternal Mental Health Alliance.
And moving into our next topic, topic 5, Charles and Camilla are about to head off on tour. They are headed to Canada next week, which I know have spoken about on the show before. They will only be there from May 17th to 19th, but we'll see the couple trek 2,000 miles across the country in honor of the Platinum Jubilee.
Our next topic, we'll talk about the Royal Windsor Horse Show this weekend. So, the Royal Windsor Horse Show is this weekend, and it'll feature many of the Queen's 12 great grandchildren paying tribute to Her Majesty in Sunday's Gallop Through History gala performance. The Queen's great grandchildren will ride in a horse drawn carriage driven by none other than Lady Louise Windsor, who is Edward and Sophie's daughter. And, we've talked about this before. She inherited a love of carriage driving from her late grandfather, Prince Philip, which is such a special bond that they had together.
Yeah, this is super sweet and super emotional. So the littlest royals were seen practicing for the show this past weekend. So we are expecting the Cambridge kids, George, Charlotte, Louis, as well as Peter and Autumn Phillipps' daughters, Savannah and Isla, Zara and Mike Tindall's three kids, Mia, Lena, and Lucas, August Brooksbank, and even little 7-month-old Sienna Mapelli-Mozzi, who we just mentioned. So Archie and Lili probably won't be there. They're not expected to be in attendance, as they likely won't be flying in for the Platinum Jubilee until much closer to June 2nd. And speaking of, for our last topic, we figured now would be a great time, since we don't have a guest this week, it's just us, to run down what is on deck for the Platinum Jubilee, which will be held from June 2nd to 5th. So here's our Platinum Jubilee schedule, our Platinum Jubilee primer. So honestly, the Platinum Jubilee is sneaking up on us, and it's going to be here before we know it. It is May 10th as we record this episode, so it's officially less than a month away. And by the way, fun fact, we already know the Queen is the longest ruling monarch in British history, which she became in September 2015, surpassing her great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, who spent 63 years and 216 days on the throne. But this past Monday, so yesterday, May 9th, the Queen became the third longest reigning monarch in world history. As queen for 70 years and 92 days, she surpassed Johann II of Liechtenstein, who ruled for 70 years and 91 days before he died in October 2016. And in just 32 more days from when this episode airs on May 11th, the Queen could move into the second place spot from Thailand's, oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher this royally, no pun intended, King Bhumibol Adulyadej, I don't think I butchered that as bad as I thought I would, who reigned for 70 years and 126 days. But to take the top spot, she's got a couple more years to go. King Louis XIV of France ruled for 72 years and 110 days. So there's your history lesson for this week. So on to the Platinum Jubilee. So on Thursday, June 2nd, we mentioned at the top of the show, we have Trooping the Color. We have a fly pass. I love a fly pass. Do you love a fly pass? We all love a fly pass. Yeah, it's one of my favorite royal occasions, along with the Buckingham Palace balcony appearance. Of course, we've already discussed that. Only working royals will be there. Then on Friday, June 3rd, there will be a service of Thanksgiving at St. Paul's Cathedral. I think, and I said this at the top of the show, I think this is where we will probably see the Sussexes for the first time. We know we're not seeing them on the balcony, so we will probably see them at the June 3rd service.
Well, we'll definitely be on the lookout. And then on that Saturday, June 4th, there will be the Derby at Epsom Downs. And then later, the Platinum Party at the Palace, which will air live on the BBC from 8 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. London time. Then on Sunday, June 5th, the big Jubilee lunch will take place, which I'm super excited about, followed by the Platinum Jubilee pageant, bringing to life iconic moments from the Queen's reign. Yeah, I'm really excited about the big Jubilee lunch, even though I won't be there. I just love this idea for some reason. It is so cool to me.
I know this is sneaking up on us, and I feel like I'm not giving it the credence. I don't know how I should be feeling, but I feel like it's not really happening, but it is really happening, and it's happening soon at that. And so I just am so excited to see it all happen. I mean, it happens every 10 years. Obviously, we haven't seen a Jubilee since 2012. It would be, if we see another Jubilee, it would be, I don't know if we will with Her Majesty as much as we'd love to. So we've really got to savor this and just love it and enjoy it and soak it all up. And I can't wait to watch it all unfold and talk it all out on the show. So Platinum Jubilee in 3.5 weeks? Is that it? So it's going to be here before we know it. And so there's your Platinum Jubilee schedule primer. So plan accordingly. Basically, block off June 2nd through 5th in your calendars. We're in the US, so we don't get 2 bank holidays like they do in the UK. So we'll have to make it work, but we will be tuned in and dialed in.
I'm going to say right now, we will come up with something, Rachel, to do to celebrate that week, whether we
Oh, yeah.
dinner together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we at minimum will go to dinner together, but we need to. I'm already thinking, how can we find a way to watch the Platinum Party at the Palace live? So, listeners, if you have any ideas for how to get live BBC coverage in the great state of Alabama, please let us know, because that's going to be great. And I mean, I think if you go to the royal family's website, they have all of this listed, and we just glazed over it. I mean, there's so many other historical things that will be happening. And really, it's just going to be a celebration of the last 70 years. And it's just going to be such a fitting and touching and moving tribute for Her Majesty, who deserves it all. So I'm so excited.
So we're going to wrap up this episode with one more quick little lifestyle segment. We haven't done one of these in a while because we've had quite a few really great interviews. We've talked a lot about the many beautiful residences of the British royal family on past episodes. Definitely go out and listen to those if you haven't. But we've never really taken a look at residences of other royal families around the globe. So there are quite a few. I think we've got just a couple to hit on today, and we'll share kind of a short little about a few of these that stuck out to us. And we may do a deep dive into some of these later on in other episodes, but we'll get started with Sweden. So the royal family of Sweden calls, and I may butcher this word, Rachel, Drottningholm Royal Palace in Stockholm, their home. So this palace has been the official residence of the Swedish royal family since 1981. It's got 5 museums and an 18th century theater. So Rachel, can you guess how many rooms this residence has?
Oh my gosh. 417.
It's got 600 rooms,
Whoa.
which is just mind-blowing. So the southern rooms are reserved for the royals, but the public can actually visit the rest of the royal grounds year-round. So listeners, if you are in Stockholm at any point, or if you plan to visit, check out how you might be able to schedule a visit to this royal palace.
I would say, and you can, I don't want to speak for you, but if I would put our top 2 royal families that we love the most, outside of obviously the British royal family, Sweden and Monaco. Wouldn't you say that? We love them.
Yeah, totally.
And so speaking of, if I'm ever in Stockholm, I'm for sure scheduling a visit to Drottningholm. I'm sorry, I'm again butchering that palace, but also Monaco. So we love Monaco on this show, and the official royal residence in Monaco is called the Princess Palace and was constructed in 1611 as a fortress. So Prince Albert and Princess Charlene, who we talk about a lot on the show, they live here. And they allow the public to visit as well. So if you ever are in Monaco, you can see the changing of the guards every day at 11:55 a.m. And in certain times of the year, they open the palace for public tours. So this year it will open in July, which breaks my heart wide open, because I will be in Europe in July, but not in Monaco. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I can find a way to sneak over there, although I doubt I have time. You can even see the cars collection of the Prince of Monaco, and palace tours go for surprisingly affordable €10, and the cars collection are just €8. So that's pretty affordable.
Yeah, definitely. I think that would be a really fun royal tour to check out.
Absolutely.
So the next country on our list is Norway. The royal family of Norway's official residence and primary office is the Royal Palace in Oslo, Norway. And it's been the official residence since 1849, when King Oscar I moved into the palace. The residence has 173 rooms, so quite a bit smaller than the Swedish palace. And it has this one particular room that's known as the Bird Room. It's kind of a famous room in the palace. So it's most commonly recognized because of the way it's uniquely decorated. And the royal family takes a lot of their official photographs here. So you go in this room and you're going to see Norwegian landscapes painted on all the walls. That they've got these sort of like posts that are painted up the walls too. And they've got ivy weaving around the post. And it's supposed to give visitors the feeling of being in an open garden pavilion. So the paintings on the walls include 43 Norwegian birds, and 6 butterflies. And there's an eagle painted on the ceiling. I thought this was a fun fact. The light fixtures in this room are some of the first electrical lights in Norway. And the council chamber is also located in this palace. So that's where the king oversees the council of the state. The palace is open for public visitors during the summer months. So another one you can check out if you're ever visiting Norway.
Maybe how some people have like they want to visit every MLB stadium around the country, or getting real southern and real granular, every SEC football stadium. We need to have like a punch card for like every royal palace across the world.
I agree.
How fun would that be? We need to trademark that. So we love the Japanese imperial family as well. And if you've ever wanted to visit Japan, make a stop at the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. Japanese emperors have resided at this royal home since 1868, and the palace grounds stretch for 1.3 miles. Just like our other royal families around the world, which we didn't have a royals around the world segment, but this is kind of it. I love it. The inside of the palace is open for public visitors 2 times a year, just 2 times a year. My gosh. You got to be real specific when you visit the Japanese royal family on January 2nd and February 23rd. So January 2nd is in celebration of the new year, and February 23rd marks the Japanese emperor's birthday. So if you happen to find yourself there outside of those dates, you might be happy to know you can still tour the East Garden, which is the part of the property that is open all year. And visitors can climb the foundation where Japan's tallest castle tower once stood and get a great view of the cherry blossoms. That's cool.
That sounds really beautiful.
Yeah.
So our last location is a little bit of a history lesson. We'll dive into that. We're going to go to Denmark. Rachel, did you know that Denmark has one of the oldest monarchies in the world?
I know that they have one, but I didn't know it was one of the oldest monarchies in the world.
So Copenhagen is home to the Amalienborg Palace. I'm not sure that I'm saying that right with my.
I think that's right.
But, it's made up of 4 identical buildings, and they are Christian VII's Palace, which is a guest residence, Frederick VIII's Palace, which is home of the Crown Prince family. So Prince Frederick is the oldest son of the reigning queen. Then there's Christian IX's Palace, which is home of the reigning queen, and Christian VIII's Palace, which is the guest palace of the queen's younger son, the Prince of Denmark, and her younger sister, the Princess of Denmark. That's their guest palace. So in this last building, you can find the Amalienborg Museum. So most of these buildings are not open to the public, but you can go and see the changing of the guards, which takes place every day at noon. The guards will march through the streets. There's typically some sort of music that goes along with it. And the loophole, if you do want to get inside one of the palace buildings, is to schedule a visit at the museum, which is located in that 4th building. So this is actually open to public visitors. And as I mentioned, it's located in the guest palace of the prince and princess. So the museum has an exhibit on the monarchy, and it provides historical glimpses that kind of span the past 150 years. And I thought this was really cool. So if you go back in history 150 years, the king and queen of Denmark at that time are known as the in-laws of Europe. Do you know why, Rachel?
I have no idea.
So they're known as the in-laws of Europe because 4 of their 5 children ascended the thrones of Denmark, Greece, Russia, and even England. So they pretty much married into other royal families around Europe. So for listeners, here's where our history lesson really comes into place. If you didn't already know this, Alexandria of Denmark, which was one of their daughters, married King Edward VII, who was the oldest son of Queen Victoria. And of course, he became king of the United Kingdom and made Alexandria Queen Alexandria. So their preferred residence was Sandringham House, which we are all very familiar with. And one of her sons was George V, who we know went on to have his own son, George VI, who is Queen Elizabeth's father. So a little family tree there. You can kind of trace back family roots to Denmark. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, I love a good history lesson like that. That was really interesting. We're going to have to do a little bit more of a deep dive on these residences in the future, but that was a really good primer. I love that. That's so interesting.
Yeah, I would love, we'll dig into some of this more in future episodes because there's some other really cool info out there that we can talk about.
Well, what an episode 61. Anything else for the good of the order before we conclude?
I don't think so. It was good to be back one-on-one with you
Yeah.
podcasting.
It's just, sometimes it's just good to have just the two of us. And I have to tell you though, we have some, again, like I know I always say this and I'm always right. We always do have interesting guests, but we just booked a guest for this summer that that doesn't on its face seem like you know who I'm talking about, doesn't on its face seem like that would be a royal podcast guest because this person is so famous, but this person's coming on our show and I can't wait for it. So we just have so much ahead. The Platinum Jubilee, we've got a lot to look forward to this year. The crown, of course, later in the year. So in the meantime, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Podcast Royal. We post now, so yay for us. Email us at hellopodcastroyal@gmail.com. We will always answer. And follow, rate, and review our podcast. We've been really happy to see some good reviews coming in, and that really helps our podcast be found on the Apple Podcast algorithms in particular. So thank you so much for tuning into episode 61 of Podcast Royal. We'll be back in a couple weeks with all the royal news you need to know. Bye.
Bye.